The rain hammered against the roof of the Montana diner, a relentless drumbeat drowning out the world. Mason Collins sat alone in a worn corner booth, his calloused hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee, gone cold. At 30, the former Texas high school football star now owned a small auto shop in Seattle, worlds away from the conservative town that had rejected him a decade ago. The letter before him contained words sharp as knives. "You're no son of mine. Don't come back." His father's handwriting hadn't changed in 10 years, but the venom had sharpened. Mason had come out as gay at 20, and the door to his family's Texas ranch had slammed shut behind him. Now, the letter wasn't even about him. It was about Noah, his 16-year-old half-brother, the kid he barely knew. Their father had kicked Noah out too, not for being gay, but allegedly for stealing from the family savings. The diner's bell jingled as a lanky figure stumbled in, soaked to the bone. Noah! His blonde hair stuck to his forehead, green eyes darting nervously like a deer in headlights. He spotted Mason and froze, clutching a ratty backpack to his chest. Mason raised a hand, forcing a smile that felt like lifting a boulder. "You must be Noah," he said, voice steady despite the storm inside him. The kid nodded, sneakers squeaking against the linoleum as he slid into the booth. "You didn't have to come," Noah muttered, staring at the table. His voice was sharp, defensive, but there was a crack, a kid trying to sound tougher than he felt. Mason studied him closely. Noah was all angles, too skinny, with a fading bruise on his cheek. "I wasn't going to leave you on the street," Mason replied. "Dad's an ass, but you're still family." The word felt foreign on his tongue. Family. He hadn't had one in years, not since his father called him an abomination and his mother stayed silent. They sat in silence as rain filled the gaps between words unspoken. The waitress slid a plate of fries between them, and Noah devoured them like he hadn't seen food in days. Mason's mind raced with doubts. He'd built a life in Seattle, the auto shop, a tight-knit group of friends, and Daniel Rodriguez, the Puerto Rican black nurse who made him laugh like no one else. Taking in a troubled teenager wasn't part of the plan. "I didn't steal that much," Noah blurted suddenly. "Just enough to get out. He was going to send me to one of those camps. You know, the ones that fix you." Mason's blood ran cold. He'd heard of conversion camps where kids were broken down until they hated themselves. "You're coming with me to Seattle," Mason said firmly. Decision made despite the war in his chest. "I've got a place. It's small, but it's mine." The highway stretched before them, dark and slick under the truck's headlights as they drove through mountains and endless plains. 600 miles of American landscape, 600 miles of silence as Noah stared out the window, earbuds blocking the world. Mason gripped the wheel, his thoughts heavy. He'd lost everything once: his family, his home, his sense of belonging. He wasn't going to lose Noah too. If this story of family rejection and unexpected connection resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heart Stories. Because sometimes the bravest thing we can do is choose to be family for someone when the world has turned its back on them. Seattle's skyline glittered against the night as Mason's truck rolled into the city. The Space Needle loomed like a promise of something better. But Noah barely glanced at it. Mason's apartment was a cramped one-bedroom above a laundromat, the kind of place where walls smelled faintly of detergent and the radiator clanked like a dying engine. "The couch is yours," Mason said, gesturing to the worn furniture. "I'll get a real bed soon." Noah dropped his backpack and scanned the room-frame photos of Mason with a smiling brown-skinned man, a pride flag pinned above the TV. "You're really out, huh?" Noah said, almost accusingly. Mason nodded. "No point hiding who I am. Not anymore." Daniel arrived an hour later, his warm brown eyes curious but kind. At 32, the nurse carried both gentleness and strength in his movements. "This the kid?" he asked, tossing a pizza box onto the counter. Noah stiffened, but Daniel didn't miss a beat. "I'm Daniel. You like pepperoni?" Over pizza, Mason laid out ground rules: no drugs, no skipping school, and no lying. Noah rolled his eyes but nodded. Mason could tell the kid was testing him, waiting for the catch. That night, Mason lay awake with Daniel curled beside him. "You sure about this?" Daniel whispered. "He's a handful," Mason sighed. "He's got no one else. I can't let him down." The next week was a crash course in guardianship. Mason enrolled Noah in a local high school known for its LGBTQ+ support programs, but bureaucracy created immediate obstacles. Without legal guardianship, Mason faced questioning from administrators and nurses alike. "I'm his brother," Mason repeated at every office. Forms multiplying before him. School wasn't easy. Noah came home with a split lip on day 3. "You don't have to fight everyone," Mason said, voice firm but gentle. "Talk to me." "You don't get it," Noah snapped, eyes flashing. "They know I'm gay. They saw me with Riley back in Texas." Mason's heart sank. He knew that kind of hate, the kind that followed you like a shadow. Daniel helped by teaching Noah how to throw a proper punch without breaking his hand, but also how to walk away. "Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing which battles aren't worth fighting," he explained, demonstrating defensive stances in their small living room. Slowly, Noah began to adapt. He joined an art club, surprising Mason with his talent for sketching cityscapes. Mason watched the relationship between Noah and Daniel grow. They shared a quieter nature that Mason sometimes envied. His own approach was more direct, sometimes too blunt. One evening, Noah came home excited about a scholarship program for LGBTQ+ youth. "My counselor thinks I could qualify," he said. The first real enthusiasm Mason had seen from him. Daniel immediately began researching requirements while Mason worried about the documentation they'd need. "We should get you into therapy," Daniel suggested to Noah one night. Mason tensed, thinking of the Cohen. "We can handle this ourselves," Mason argued later when they were alone. "Therapy's expensive." "Some things need professional help," Daniel countered. "Love isn't enough sometimes." Their first real fight as a family erupted over this, Mason insisting they could provide all Noah needed, Daniel advocating for professional support. Noah heard every word through the thin walls, his sketches that night darker, sharper. Eventually, a compromise emerged. A community center offered sliding scale counseling, and Mason's friends, a lesbian couple who owned a bookstore and a trans man who ran a coffee shop, rallied around them with hand-me-downs and job connections. Noah started therapy, and Mason took extra shifts at the garage to cover costs. 6 months into their new life, an opportunity arose, a chance to buy a struggling auto shop in Portland. The price was right, the timing perfect. "We could start fresh," Mason told Daniel and Noah, "somewhere with no history." That night, as they packed their modest belongings, Mason found Noah adding the finishing touches to a painting of vibrant Seattle skyline with 3 small figures standing together at the center. It was the first time Mason truly believed they could become a family that chose each other. In creating a family, we learn that belonging isn't about blood or obligation. It's about showing up for each other, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. We build home not in places, but in the spaces between people who choose to love us as we are. Portland welcomed them with rain-slicked streets and the promise of new beginnings. Mason's auto shop, Collins Automotive, quickly gained a reputation for honest work and fair prices. Their apartment above the shop became home. Walls adorned with Noah's growing collection of artwork. For 6 months, life settled into a rhythm that felt almost stable. Then the changes began. Noah started coming home late, offering thin excuses about study groups and art projects. His phone became an extension of his hand, screen always angled away from Mason and Daniel. Mason noticed the sudden password protection, the hushed conversations that ended when he entered a room. Teenagers need privacy, Daniel reasoned, but the worry lines deepened around his eyes. Mason respected boundaries, remembering how his own parents had violated his. Yet instinct told him something was wrong. Noah's grades slipping, dark circles forming under his eyes, jumpiness at unexpected sounds. The threat materialized on a Tuesday afternoon. Mason was changing oil on a Subaru when a motorcycle rumbled to a stop outside the shop. The rider, mid-20s, lean and hard-edged with a snake tattoo crawling up his neck, removed his helmet and stared through the open garage door. Mason noticed Noah freeze mid-sweep, the color draining from his face. "Can I help you?" Mason called, wiping greasy hands on a shop rag. The stranger's mouth curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. Just admiring the setup, his eyes never left Noah. Good to see familiar faces in a new city. After he rode away, Mason found Noah in the bathroom, retching into the toilet. "Who was that?" he demanded. "Nobody," Noah insisted, but his trembling hands betrayed him. 3 days later, Mason caught Noah cutting class. The school's automated call exposed the lie he'd carefully constructed about an early dismissal. That night, Mason and Daniel confronted him. "I can't tell you," Noah said, eyes darting between them. "You'll hate me." "Nothing you say will make us hate you," Daniel assured him, the gentleness in his voice creating space for truth. The story spilled out in broken pieces. The motorcycle rider was Tyler, 25, charismatic, dangerous. He'd helped vulnerable gay teens back in Texas, offering shelter and protection in exchange for loyalty. Noah had met him through another boy, Riley, who'd become his first boyfriend. Tyler had supplied fake IDs, places to meet, safety from bullies, all with invisible strings attached. "He let me crash at his place when Dad found out about Riley and me," Noah explained, voice small. "But everything with Tyler comes with a price." The price became clear. Tyler used teens to run drugs, holding their secrets and safety hostage. When Noah planned to escape Texas, he'd borrowed money from Tyler as well as from home. "He found me somehow," Noah whispered, terror edging his voice. "He says I owe him. He wants me to move product for him here in Portland." Mason's protective rage collided with fear. Tyler represented everything he'd tried to shield Noah from predators who exploited vulnerable LGBTQ+ youth cast out by their families. The statistics Daniel quietly shared later that night only heightened his dread. Homeless LGBTQ+ teens were disproportionately targeted by trafficking networks, their desperation weaponized against them. "I thought he was like us," Noah admitted, shame coloring his words. "Strong, not afraid to be gay, not like you guys with your normal jobs and quiet life. He seemed powerful." Mason understood the twisted appeal. In a world that punished difference, Tyler's dangerous confidence might appear like strength to a rejected teen. In desperation, Mason tried reaching his parents, swallowing pride for Noah's sake. The call lasted exactly 47 seconds before his father hung up. His mother's silence in the background, a familiar wound reopened. That night, a brick shattered their living room window. A note attached, "I always collect what's mine." The weeks that followed became a slow-motion nightmare. Tyler appeared unpredictably outside the shop, near Noah's school, at the grocery store. Each encounter carried thinly veiled threats wrapped in friendly conversation. Noah withdrew further, jumping at shadows, his art abandoned. "We can go to the police," Daniel suggested, but Noah shook his head violently. "He's connected, he'll know, and he has dirt on everyone, photos, messages, proof we were all involved." Mason felt the walls closing in, the life they'd built together threatening to collapse under the weight of Tyler's shadow. This wasn't just about money owed, it was about power, about owning people. And Mason was determined that Tyler would never own his brother. Sometimes the deepest threats come not from strangers, but from those who recognized our vulnerabilities and exploited them. True protection isn't about sheltering someone from all harm. It's about standing beside them when harm inevitably comes, showing them they never have to face darkness alone. The threats escalated with calculating precision. Anonymous texts arrived on Noah's phone at 3 a.m., describing exactly what he was wearing to bed. Mason found his customer files mysteriously corrupted one morning. Daniel discovered his nursing schedule posted to a fake social media account. Each incident carried Tyler's invisible fingerprint, too strategic for coincidence, too careful for prosecution. "We need professional help," Mason finally admitted, swallowing his pride. Carla Washington entered their lives like a thunderclap, a former Portland detective turned private investigator, her dark skin creased with experience, her gaze missing nothing. She sat at their kitchen table, recording details in quick, efficient notes. "Tyler Mercer," she said, not looking up from her notebook. "Small-time dealer with big-time connections. Been on Portland PD's radar for 2 years. Slippery as an eel." She fixed Noah with a steady look. "He specializes in kids like you, smart, desperate, with nowhere else to go." Her investigation revealed Tyler's methodical pattern. He'd followed Noah's social media breadcrumbs to Portland, already establishing a network in the city's eastern districts. He operated through layers of teenagers, keeping his hands clean while collecting leverage on everyone. "The system fails these kids twice," Carla explained. "First when their families reject them, then when predators like Tyler offer the belonging they're starving for." Mason understood too well. In another life, with less luck, he might have fallen into someone like Tyler's orbit instead of finding Daniel and building his shop. Late one evening, Carla called with news. "He's meeting suppliers tomorrow night. Industrial district. Warehouse off Columbia Boulevard. Police are planning surveillance, but they need more to make arrests stick." That night, Mason, Daniel, and Noah moved to a motel as a precaution. Noah had been withdrawn for days, guilt eating him from inside. "This is all my fault," he whispered as Daniel checked them in. "You should just let me go with him. Maybe then he'd leave you alone." "That's not happening," Mason said firmly, his hand on Noah's shoulder. "We're family. We fight together." They returned home the next afternoon to devastating destruction. The apartment door hung splintered on its hinges. Inside, furniture lay overturned, dishes shattered. Most painful were Noah's paintings slashed to ribbons, the canvas of their family portrait defaced with obscenities. On the living room wall, spray painted in crimson, "Nobody escapes." Mason felt something break inside him, not fear, but a cold, clear resolve. He'd spent years building this life, this business, this family. He wouldn't surrender it. "I'm going with Carla tonight," he told Daniel, who immediately protested. "It's too dangerous. Let the police handle it. They need witnesses who can identify him," Mason argued. "I'm not letting his terrorize us anymore." The warehouse loomed dark against the night sky, its metal skeleton reflecting distant streetlights. Weldon waited in Carla's unmarked car, heart hammering as police units positioned themselves around the perimeter. Through binoculars, he spotted Tyler inside, lounging against a stack of pallets, counting cash while underlings moved packages. "That's him," Mason confirmed, the image burning into his memory. When police moved in, chaos erupted. Shouts echoed through the cavernous space. Footsteps thundered across concrete. A single gunshot cracked the night open. Mason ducked down, pulse racing. When silence finally returned, he looked up to see Tyler being led out in handcuffs, his face a mask of cold fury. For a moment, their eyes met across the distance. In Tyler's gaze, Mason recognized something unexpected, not just anger, but a flash of the same abandonment he'd seen in Noah's eyes. Another gay kid who'd been thrown away, who'd chosen a darker path to survive. The recognition didn't bring sympathy, only exhaustion. Back at the motel, Noah hugged him fiercely. "I was so scared," he admitted, tears streaming. "I should have told you everything sooner." "You're safe now," Mason said. "That's what matters." But safety came at a devastating cost. Insurance barely covered the damages to their apartment and shop. Legal fees mounted as they cooperated with prosecutors building a case. Customers drifted away during the weeks the shop remained closed. By the time Tyler's bail hearing concluded denied, thankfully Mason faced bankruptcy. "We have to sell," he finally admitted to Daniel one night, the spreadsheets before them unmistakable. "The shop, everything. Start over somewhere else." Daniel, who'd been picking up extra hospital shifts to keep them afloat, nodded with tired eyes. "Where, Tacoma?" Mason suggested. It's far enough from Portland, but close enough that you won't lose your nursing license. Housing's cheaper there. The final blow came when their landlord, citing the property damage and criminal associations, declined to renew their lease. Mason sold Collins Automotive at a significant loss to a local competitor. Their dreams of ownership, of building something lasting, dissolved into boxes packed in haste and loaded into the back of the same truck that had brought them from Seattle a year before. As they drove away from Portland, Mason caught Noah watching the city recede in the side mirror. "I'm sorry, Mama," Noah said quietly. "You lost everything because of me." Mason reached across the seat to squeeze his shoulder. Buildings and businesses can be replaced. Family can't. In life's hardest moments, our true priorities become crystal clear. Material possessions, careers, even dreams can be sacrificed when weighed against the people we love. True wealth isn't measured in what we own, but in who we choose to stand beside when everything else is stripped away. Tacoma welcomed them with gray skies and modest expectations. Their new apartment sat in a sprawling complex of identical units, the kind where neighbors nodded without stopping to chat. It wasn't the dream they'd built in Portland, but it offered something they desperately needed: anonymity, distance, a clean page. Mason found work at a local garage as an employee, not an owner. The pay was steady but the hours long, and he returned home each evening with grease embedded in his knuckles and exhaustion in his bones. Daniel secured a position at Tacoma General Hospital, his experience earning him respect despite being the newcomer. Their savings depleted, they lived paycheck to paycheck. Counting pennies at the grocery store, Noah enrolled in his third school in 18 months. The constant upheaval showed in his hunched shoulders and wary eyes. His therapy continued, though less frequently than before, and Mason often found him staring silently out windows, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. "It's my fault," Noah repeated like a mantra whenever bills arrived or unexpected expenses emerged. "You should have left me in that diner." One evening, Mason sat beside him on their second-hand couch. "Do you know why I came to get you that day?" Noah shrugged, eyes fixed on his hands. "Because 10 years ago, when Dad kicked me out, no one came for me. No one said I mattered enough to fight for." Mason's voice grew quiet. "I promised myself if I ever had the chance to be the person I needed back then, I'd do it without hesitation." Slowly, almost imperceptibly, healing began. Noah joined an LGBTQ+ youth art program at the local community center. His sketchbooks filled again, color returning to his artwork like spring after winter. He made cautious friendships with other teens who carried their own scars. News arrived that Tyler had accepted a plea deal, 8 years for drug trafficking and extortion. The prosecutor called it a victory, but Mason felt nothing beyond relief that the threat was contained. 4 months after their move, Noah presented Mason and Daniel with a new painting, a portrait of the three of them standing together beneath an expansive sky. Not in Seattle or Portland, but somewhere undefined, limitless. "It's us," Noah said simply. "Wherever we end up." Mason hung it in their living room, emotion tightening his throat. Then came the unexpected encounter. Mason was leaving work when someone called his name in the parking lot. He turned to find Jason Miller, once the star quarterback at his Texas high school, once among those who'd tormented him after he came out. "Thought that was you," Jason said, hands jammed in his pockets. "I'm in town for business." Mason braced for hostility, but instead found awkward contrition in Jason's eyes. "My daughter came out last year," Jason said abruptly. "She's 15. It made me remember how we treated you." He paused. "I'm sorry, Mason. We were cruel because we were scared." That brief exchange opened something in Mason, not forgiveness exactly, but perspective. The world was changing, slowly and unevenly, but changing nonetheless. On a crisp autumn afternoon, they drove to the Washington coast. Noah ran along the shore, chasing waves, laughing in a way Mason hadn't heard since before Tyler. Mason and Daniel stood hand in hand, watching him. "We did good," Daniel said softly. "We lost everything," Mason replied. Daniel squeezed his hand. "Did we?" Mason considered the question as he watched Noah, now sketching the horizon from a driftwood perch. They had lost a business, savings, security, dreams they'd carefully constructed. But standing there on that windswept beach, Mason realized they'd preserved what mattered most: their family. Imperfect, but intact. Built not through blood, but through choice and struggle. As the sun painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, Mason felt peace he hadn't known in years. The road had been brutal, but they'd made it. Together, they'd built something no one could take away. Have you ever had to start over completely? What did you discover was truly irreplaceable when everything else was stripped away? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey of family, loss, and rebuilding touched your heart, subscribe to Heart Stories for more powerful tales of resilience and love that defies expectations.